Good evening and welcome to the Pam Bowden Show, where we're going to be talking about IPFW women's basketball. This week, Coach Bowden and myself, Matt DeLong, are going to be talking about last week in IPFW basketball, as well as this Saturday, Franklin College coming to the Gates Sports Center. We'll have all that when we return with the show right after this.
The college basketball season is underway for 1994-95, and the Great Lakes Valley Conference has been rated by some as the toughest of the NCAA Division II conferences. Join Coach Andy Piazza and me, Matt DeLong, to get a closer look at the IPFW team and this year's competition.
Check it out!
The campus has it all.
Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now! Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. And Coach, last week, and it was a rough week, to be quite frank and blunt, as you went down to Findlay, ranked number 4 in the NAIA.
Yep.
Very good team. You knew that going in. Had some problems with them. You knew they were a solid team,
Right.
and you knew what to expect. They end up coming out on the plus side, 81-59. Tough defeat for your ladies.
Oh yeah, it was. I think a couple things that really had an effect on us was one that, you know, we were playing an old coach, and I think there were some emotions in that, and along with, it's tough to go back in a game like that, and, you know, I think some kids had some things to prove, and I think they just got uptight a little bit with what they were doing and things like that.
Well, we're going to get into next week, or this weekend, actually, this Saturday at the Gates Center, first doubleheader later on in the show. But
Right.
as we always have to do, you have to kind of go through, tell us what happened here and there. Lady Dons are still 4-2.
Right.
But again, just a tough loss. But you start off, you're down about 13 at halftime, I believe. And
Right.
my score's cut off here at the bottom. But you're down 13 at halftime. And, I mean, what do you say to the ladies? You know what they're going up against, as far as, like you said, going up against an old coach. But it would kind of take us from there.
Well, I think what we tried to do is we tried to do it as individuals instead of as a team. And once that kind of stuff happens and you're all trying to take it on one by one, you know, it just doesn't come out as easy as you think it's going to. And we really needed to work as a team to get back into the game. And there's a point that we got within 5, but we just fell apart. And hopefully we can take Saturday's game and you know, really learn from it, because I think it showed a lot of things, you know, negative things that happened that we can really make some positives out of down the road.
We had Jenny Newhart on the show last week, and we talked with Jenny a lot about her slow start. You know, had definitely had a slow start for her standards, still better than the average college basketball player, but she's really started to turn it on, and then she led you again with 17 points, second game in a row that she has led the Lady Dons in scoring.
Right. Jenny did a good job. She got into foul trouble real early in the game. The last 2 games, you know, there were some tight calls, and it's sort of taken her out of the game a little bit. And I think she could have helped us a little bit more in this game, but she spent quite a bit of time on the bench, you know, that more than what we would have liked to.
Well, again, 17 points. The last 2 games that Jenny has led the team in scoring and had 2 of her finer performances of the season, and we can go back also to Northwood, so 3 games in a row, really, where she's played very solid games. 2 of those games she's fouled out. And do you think that she's just more aggressive? Is that part of the mix that's gotten her back into it? Or not necessarily, because, as we know, that some of the fouls that have been called on her lately really haven't been her fouls, but the breaks have gone against her. Let's say, I mean, the person's definitely got fouled. There's been 2 people there, and Jenny always seems to get the call.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, she's just sticking out for some reason. And you know, looking back in the tapes, there's a couple calls that I think, you know, she's gotten that might not have been her fouls. There's definitely a foul on the play, but I don't know if it is directly her foul. and I'm not sure what she's doing to draw that attention. But I think she is playing a little bit more aggressive, and she's going to the boards a lot harder, and maybe that just has something to do with it. I'm not really sure.
Were there a lot of matchup problems with Finley?
Not really. I brought Leah Sheets off the bench, and she matched up against her All-American, and I thought she did a real good job defensively. I think more of our breakdown was against ourselves and within ourselves. Finley's a great team, but I still think that we should have had a closer game, and I really believe that we should have been able to beat them.
And, well, with your team, probably any day you're capable of beating anybody. Do you see that in these ladies to this point? I mean, you know that you got beat by a team soundly that you can compete with.
Right.
But on another day, you beat a Missouri Rolla team that's very solid.
Right, and I think we have to take the bad things that happened out of the game and look at, what went wrong in that game, and to try to learn from it so that we can become a better team and to have more games like the Northwoods and the Missouri games, because that's where we're playing at, and that's where our potential really is.
You look down, we'll run through the scoring now, and people can see it was distributed and not quite as evenly as it normally is. Dottie Porch was next in line. She had 12 points and 9 rebounds. And we'll go to Tara Mazzillo, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 5 turnovers. Now let's talk about turnovers in this game, Coach, not to throw it on one person, but you did have 18 turnovers,
right.
And many of those were converted into points, and you were beaten a lot in that way. And you were talking earlier, you were kind of disappointed in the turnover situation, but you don't think that it's something that can't be remedied.
Yeah, I think, with exams and papers and things like that, you hate to use that as an excuse, but I think, when kids get tired, their mental focus seems to go first, and I think that's what's happening with some kids on our team. I know Wendy Records, she's just had a lot of projects and things, and even in practice she's turned the ball over in situations that she normally wouldn't do that. And I think, after this week settles down and exams are done, I think the kids will get back to their old selves.
Is that something that you as a coach have to prepare for basically every year, this time of the year when you do get into exams and term papers and all that performances and here at IPFW, some of our finer women's basketball players are our best students, too.
Yeah, we have some real good students, and I think that, they take a lot of pride in their grades and things like that and how they're doing academically. And, there's a lot of work, and every year at this time, you seem to have just a little lull in what we're doing, and we try to cut back a little bit last week, and we're cutting back a little bit this week as far as the amount of time that we're preparing for games. And we don't get to prepare as much as we would like to, but I think that we have to be fair to the kids and that we have to give them an equal opportunity to do as well as they can do it academically, because that's really what they're here for.
Exactly. There's never much to talk about in a loss, and I think that's kind of where we're at now. We don't really want to do that. So what I'm going to ask you is we're going to go into a commercial segment here in a minute. Do you really, do you have a problem with motivation this time of the year? You don't have many games coming up between now and really New Year's. You're going to have some downtime. And as you said, you're already starting to cut back a little bit now.
Right. I think there's always times where you're going to have trouble motivating for whatever reason, whether it's because, they're in exam week or we have Christmas break or whatever. You're always going to have that. But I think that you just have to try to focus in on what you're trying to accomplish each week and each practice, and hopefully the kids can get to that point where they're focusing every day on the same things. And that's hard to do when you're worrying about getting, I got to study for that biology test or whatever, and you have those things to worry about. And I think that takes away from it a little bit. But I think it's just a challenge to motivate them.
Well, thanks, Coach. We're gonna talk some more. I think in our third segment today, we're gonna talk about some of the coaching tips that you, and we'll get into that just a little bit more in just a few moments. When we come back, we're gonna talk about this weekend's action. Saturday night at the Gates Sports Center, we've got Franklin College. We'll be right back and talk Franklin in just a moment.
First-year IPFW women's basketball coach Pam Bowden is enjoying a fine preseason after coming to IPFW from the University of Alaska Anchorage. She has inherited a club which returns no seniors but still enjoys one of the top ratings in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. We want you to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 to find out more information about the IPFW women's basketball team all season long.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and this weekend, first men's-women's doubleheader at the Hilliard Gate Sports Center, At 6 o'clock, the women's basketball team will be taking on Franklin College. At 8 o'clock, the men will be taking on Quincy University. And, Coach, we're going to talk about Franklin now. You got a pretty in-depth scouting report on them, and you come off of a tough loss to an undefeated nationally ranked team, and you go right back into an unranked, undefeated team with a pretty strong tradition down there at Franklin College. Southern Indiana is where they're at, but some good basketball down there. They're 8-0 at this point, Coach, and I know you've seen them play a couple times, got the stats and everything. They're an NAIA school again. Sometimes you know that there are good NAIA schools and not so good NAIA schools. There's definitely a difference in the players generally, but 8-0 at this point in the season means that they've got something going for them.
Right, and I don't think you can take that lightly. If you come in thinking that there's a given game that you're just going to totally slaughter somebody or you're going to have it easy, that's when they surprise you and you end up losing because you just weren't prepared. So we have to, look at them and yet be realistic with what they can do and not make it so that, we should be scared of them, but to keep it in perspective that, they haven't played quite the schedule that a Findlay has played, and, even though they're 8-0, we have to take them serious.
Your ladies coming off of a loss. Does that affect them at all playing against an 8-0 team? We've pointed that out a couple of times, but do you think that that'll actually aid them in becoming motivated once again to get back out there?
Well, I think it's just a matter of, one, motivating them in the right way, and coming off the loss and being able to learn the right things out of that loss. If the kids don't, take the things that we did wrong in the Findlay game and they continue to do that in this upcoming game, we're going to be in the same boat and we will lose another game. If we're able to, take and look and be really smart with, what went wrong in that game and we're able to correct those things, hey, we have a great shot at winning this game. So it just depends on how our kids respond to the loss.
And before we specifically start to talk about Franklin, and you're going to give us a pretty thorough rundown, is it going to be nice to get back in our gym? You've only been away from one game, but it's going to be a pretty good feeling getting the girls back here.
Well, it's always nice to play in your gym. It's, you go on the road, and you've got a lot of negative factors against you every time you go on the road. You're not in a comfortable situation shooting. Officials, whether you want to admit it, there's officials that are good at home, and there's officials that that help you on the at home, and sometimes that happens.
You put that so diplomatically. That's
good. Well, I think officials, is the only thing I really ask out of them is that they really try to work hard and that they try to be fair, whether they're home or away, and. I think most of the time, you got to get on them a little bit, keep them honest, here and there. But, I think for the most part, most of them are trying to do the best job they can. And, you have to take it for that. Right. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes. They make mistakes. So
again, 6 o'clock, Saturday night. We want to make sure everybody, gets out to that one. Okay, Coach, let's start with Franklin now. Backcourt.
Backcourt, I think they've got a pretty... balanced team from what I'm looking at. My assistant Nikki Inzano had a chance to scout them against Taylor. Taylor played them only in a zone, so it's going to be a little interesting to find out what they do against man-to-man pressure. We're still waiting on a videotape, and hopefully that'll show a little bit more out of them on that. As far as what they do against a zone, they have a baseline runner. They switch in the post. They have two kids that run the baseline and actually fill the post. Two guards that set up top and a high post player. They don't do much adjusting from that. So if we play a zone, we should be able to match up to that very well. If we decide to go man-to-man, we may have a little bit more, surprises compared to what we have as far as a scouting report and what material we're getting on them. They have some kids that can shoot the three. They have a lot of kids that have the ability. As far as who's their three-point shooter, I would say probably Kramer is probably one of their better three-point shooters, so she's somebody that we're going to have to watch from the outside and really respect her outside shooting ability. Lacey is their point guard. She seems to be able to handle the ball pretty well, doesn't have a lot of turnovers, and has quite a few assists. So, we're going to have to be able to put some pressure on her, and hopefully that we can make her turn the ball over a little bit more and maybe not get quite as many assists.
Yeah, I know you pointed out earlier she does have a tendency to turn the ball over, at least from a statistical standpoint, just without seeing much of her.
Right, and you know their best player probably on the inside is Cole. She plays in the low post. However, she has the ability to step out. So if your post player doesn't make the adjustment, stepping out with her, 10, 15 feet, then we're going to be in trouble if we don't, get out and deny the ball there. So hopefully, we're able to pick up our defense a little bit more than we did against Findlay, and really make some positive steps in that direction.
Does that concern you with a post player that can go outside like that? With the fact that Jenny has fouled out the last 2 games, she will be a probable matchup with Cole. Does that concern you that they would see that and say, well, we'll take her outside, try to go baseline then?
I'd rather see Jen play out a little bit. I think she does a little bit better job defending that. Where Jenny's been getting in trouble is that a player gets loose somewhere where maybe it's a point getting loose and penetrating and then dishing off, and then she's a little late recovering from that because she's trying to help. Or the ball's coming in from the wing and then she's stuck, like she was caught on the high side and she's not coming around the front like she's supposed to in the post, so she gets, just a step late. And most of her fouls are in the low post area, so I don't worry about her as much stepping out. I think we do a better job there. It's just a matter of if we're smart enough to make the adjustment from game to game.
Haven't really seen what their defensive average is, but kind of team you feel that you can run on?
Yeah, I think one of the real things, positive things that we can do in this game is run on them and get our running game back. Against Findlay, we didn't push the ball up the court for whatever reason. We just really struggled. Didn't get the ball out of bounds quick. Didn't go to the boards as hard as we needed to really start our break. When we ran against them, we did very well, but it just didn't happen often enough.
Well, Coach, I think we're gonna come back here in a few moments. You said you wanted to talk about a few of the other areas of coaching that we wanted to talk about. Why don't you set us up for that?
All right. Well, I think that there's some aspects I think a lot of people don't understand that go on behind the scenes, and I think scouting a game and in the preparation for a game is one of those areas. Recruiting and the procedures that happen in recruiting. Those things go on all year, and I think sometimes we overlook them.
Well, we're going to talk about those things when we come back with more of the Pam Bowden Show. I think these are things that young aspiring coaches should run and get their notepads for. We're definitely going to be right back and finish up the Pam Bowden Show for this week right after this message.
Talk about unusual. How often do you see transparent televisions?
Americans have more money to spend on leisure activities than ever before.
When possible, children should trick or treat during daylight hours and be accompanied by at least one adult.
A boat, archaeologists believe, is from the time Jesus and his disciples fished on the Galilee.
For best results, fertilize your lawn when it is actively growing.
Many people suffer from allergies. Few understand them.
Graduate assistant.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm Matt DeLong, and you get to points in coaches' shows where you have one game over a 3-week period, and we're kind of at that point. So to fill the time, and Pam and I were talking earlier, we'd really just want to get to the point where we can maybe use a segment to talk about things like we're going to talk about now. And scouting is going to be one of the first areas that we talk about. We're going to talk about scouting and recruiting, things that coaches have to do. And maybe a lot of it is rely on other people. I think that might be the toughest thing for somebody in control such as yourself. You know, you're a head coach. You're in charge of 14 ladies from, and some days from when they get up to when they go to sleep and everything they do in between. So it's kind of hard for you to give up control on what's going to happen to the team the next day because you have to prepare for something different or whatever. So let's talk about scouting, Coach.
Well, as far as scouting, I think there are a lot of different aspects that I think the average fan doesn't really realize that goes on behind the scenes. And one of the first things that we have to do is we have to get everybody's schedules, and we have to look at the schedules, and to try to take each of those schedules and say, okay, we're playing this team, such and such is playing them, we need to get a videotape, set up a schedule of videotapes so that we can exchange amongst different schools and make arrangements to have that done. Another thing that we do is try to get to see every team one time. I think even though you see a videotape, I mean, tapes just you don't look as fast in a videotape for some reason, and you know, it gives you a chance to really break down and analyze, but to get the real feel of how players play, I think you really have to see them in person. And so what we try to do is we try to get a videotape or two on every team. We try to get to a game, whether it's Nikki and myself or just one of us, and we try to go there and have a chance to really analyze them as individuals, as a team, what they're doing offensively, what they're doing defensively, try to look at the presses, how they break a press, you know, what is the other team doing against them, how do they attack what they're doing, and try to look at it from a variety of ways, because it seems coaches have a lot of tendencies that stay true from year to year. If you have an old tape, I mean, maybe they played last year, get last year's tape out just to have some background information on returning players and, you know, what the style of the coach is, because a lot of times that doesn't change from year to year.
You pointed out earlier that you need to get to see somebody because the video is not the same. Is there ever a temptation not to drive that extra 50 miles to go see somebody play?
Sometimes. I mean, the week gets hectic, and you know, you just got done with a game, and the next day, you know, maybe you have given your team off, and you've got to drive 4 hours to see somebody play. You just have to do it. It's nice if we can break it up between the two of us sometimes, so that we're both not always on the road. And sometimes it's good to go. You know, this is Nikki's first year, and you know, hopefully there's things that I can show her that I've learned over the years that can help, you know, analyze when we go to games, and it gives her a chance to ask me questions that, you know, when she goes by herself, she's just learning by the seat of her pants, and hopefully she's getting all the information that she needs.
Like we talked about, being in control, is it ever hard for you to give over control to an assistant coach or even a friend? I think a lot of times at this level you rely on friends doing it, unpaid, whatever, just to be there to give you something. Well, what'd you think of the game or whatever?
Yeah.
But is it hard for you to believe without seeing it yourself?
Sometimes it is, and I think it's hard. I mean, in any position where you have other people working for you, I think everybody has struggles with what they will give somebody else to do and what they won't. And sure, there's times I'm sure that I don't give Nikki, you know, everything that I'd like to give her at times, you know, because it's like, yeah, the bottom, you know, the buck stops with me, and if it doesn't get done or doesn't get done the right way, then, you know, it's my responsibility. And sometimes you don't want to take the time to go back. It's easier to do it yourself sometimes. But I mean, there are people that I know, you know, in Nikki's one of those people that there's a lot of things I can give to, you know, other things too, and then I trust that they will give me the best they can give, and I trust in what they do. If I know, you know, let's take recruiting as an example. If I know that a friend of mine calls me up and says, hey, we've got this player, and, you know, she can do this and that, you know, if I really trust that person and I believe what they're saying and they're a good friend of mine, you know, I know that they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna lie to me, and they're giving me a legit, you know, report on that kid. So you have to trust them with that.
I think recruiting is something that we could probably sit down and have an entire show for.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, in this day and age, if you put it on prime time on network, it's a show that will probably get some pretty high ratings because it is such an issue. But we're going to talk about the basics, not the controversial side. Just how does a coach find out about a player? I mean, does somebody, you know, say, what if IPFW has a kid on the roster from Washington? You know, how do those kids get here? Or you know, how do you find out about a kid at Woodland High School?
Well, I think there's a lot of different avenues, and there's a lot of ways that you find out about kids. I have a pile of recruiting letters from kids, from coaches.
So they actually send them to you?
So, sometimes players and coaches send information to you. Other times people hear, you know, I've got contacts all over the country just because of the areas that I've coached in. And so there's people that if they know and believe in you as a coach and your system, they're willing to give you information about kids, in Washington or, in New York and places like that. They know and they respect your program, so they're going to help you out whenever they can. So they just give you a name, and you just follow up on that by writing letters or contacting coaches by phone and things like that.
But is there any way in your local community to find out about somebody, really, other than looking to see who's hot in a newspaper and then going to see them yourself?
Well, I think you have to try to make contacts with local coaches and scouting services and things like that, and you have to use all those different avenues to really have a broad base. And I think the broader base that you have, I think you have a better range of people that you can select from. And once you select some people, then you have to narrow it down to what you're specifically wanting to come in. I mean, you have to have an idea of what you're looking for. And you have to be able to take your wants to tie into your team and really focus down and break down those maybe top 10 recruits in that position and say, okay, this is what we're looking for, and she can give us the all-around best to fit into our program. Or this kid's academics aren't as good as we'd like, so we'll take this other kid. I mean, you're playing a game constantly, but yet on the flip side of that, those kids are playing games with you and 10 other universities. So you have to be careful of how you go about it, because you want to be honest with kids and you want them to be as honest with you as you can.
It's a very tricky game, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
And it's a mental game, quite honestly. Well, like Pam, thanks. We'll see you Saturday night at the Gates Center. You've got Franklin, and I want to wish you good luck next Tuesday. We'll be right back here and talk about that.
All right, thank you.
All right. Once again, thank you for joining us. Let me reiterate. Saturday night at 6 o'clock, the Lady Dons taking on Franklin College, and we want to ask you to be there. So once again, I'm Matt DeLong for Coach Pam Bowden. We'll be back again next week. Please join us. Welcome to the Pam Bowden Show, where we're going to be talking about IPFW women's basketball. We're going to recap last weekend's Franklin matchup. It was a win for the Lady Dons. And then we're going to get into this evening's contest with Ohio Northern. Lindy Jones and Coach Pam Bowden are joining me. We'll be right back with more of the show right after this.
As host of a great party, you want to make sure your friends have a real good time. But you also want to make sure they get home safely. That's why Beer Drinkers of America reminds you to party smart. As the party winds down, a smart host closes the bar, offers his friends non-alcoholic beverages, and serves a fresh round of snacks. A smart host also keeps his eye on his guests and doesn't let anyone attempt to drive home who shouldn't. Be smart. Make yours a party everyone will remember.
Check it out!
The campus has it all.
Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now! Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong. Joining us today is Lindy Jones, along with Coach Pam Bowden. But first, Coach, we're going to talk about last week's game with Franklin. Franklin came in 8-0,
right.
And they're a Division III school just coming up from the NAIA. So there's a lot of, I guess, Franklin that you didn't know about. Maybe even almost naturally a lack of respect because some of the teams that they had played.
Right.
But I think they came in and the final was 77-76, and they had actually closed it to that in about the last minute. You had a chance to win by double figures. Didn't quite work out like that. They had a three-pointer at the end. But 77-76, a fortunate win for you, but really a pretty good Franklin team, now 8-1. And by the way, your team goes to 5-2 on the season.
Right. Yeah, Franklin did a great job. I think they came out and they were really intense and really wanted to win the game. I don't think there was any doubt in their mind that they could or couldn't win it. As far as us, I think we did some things defensively that helped them along in that aspect. I was hoping that we could beat them by a few more points so that we get a few more people in the game. Try to get some experience with some of the other kids.
You've been playing a wide array of players, and I think that we'll look to your bench again for some great contributions out of Leah Sheets and Dottie Porch. Leah had 12 points, and she's really come on to be as solid a player as you could possibly hope for a freshman coming off the bench.
Right. Both Dottie and Leah have done a great job coming off the bench, and that's something that they really add to our total team, is that we have that strength coming off the bench, and hopefully we'll develop that with a couple more players as we go through the season. Having that little boost of energy, trying to rest people and makes the proper substitutions during the game, it really helps having that as a backup, and you have confidence in those players coming in every time, and you know that they're going to get the job done when they go in.
I mean, we can't overlook though the fact that your big girls have a lot of rest actually. With Leah coming in 5'10", Dottie coming into the game, Dottie Porch 9 points also, and 8 rebounds. We'll throw in, comes in, spells Jenny Newhart, Tara Mazzillo, and Jenny continuing her good pace. Didn't foul out of this game. We've mentioned that. She's been fouling out a lot, though she's been having her finest play of the season. But she still has 13 points and finally gets 30 minutes in, which has got to be a big plus for you. Right.
It's nice to see that we can rotate those 3 post players in 4, when we use Leah. And it helps us a lot as far as the foul situation if we get anyone in foul trouble. If somebody doesn't have an on day and somebody else seems to just pick it up and fill in. So it's real helpful for us from that aspect that we always have that strength, within the post position.
The final was 77-76. It was a 1-point game at halftime, 39-38. IPFW was on top. And I think there was really a game within a game, especially there in that first half, as Lindy Jones, we'll be talking with her later, and Stephanie Kramer for Franklin. We're just going at it. Lindy ends up with 20 points in her first half, and I think Kramer has 15 in the first half. So they were just going at each other, and I think they were matched up on each other, and it was just 2 excellent offensive players going at it.
Yeah, they were matched up for a little bit, and then we eventually moved Leah in to give Lindy a little break there so we could get some more of the offense out of her. But they're both very good players. They both can drive well, and they cause trouble for both teams because of that. We just gave up baseline a lot. Our help position wasn't there and things like that, and we worked on that this week. So hopefully we can pick up when we get to Ohio Northern so that we can correct some of those defensive mistakes. But our kids play pretty well. The intensity was there at times, or sometimes it wasn't there, and it's just a matter of how hard we want to play.
Wendy Rector's been dishing out the ball very well at point guard. 12 assists again the other night. 12 points, but her shooting has actually been struggling. She hasn't been hitting the 3-ball very well. Of course, we only had 2 taken and both hit by Lindy in the first half. I think they were basically back-to-back. And she just really got into a groove and got to shoot the ball. But Wendy's shot really hasn't been there, and I think she's been trying to look for the open person a lot more, where she is kind of a point guard that can score. She's still got 12 points, but I think that she's making more of a conscious effort to dish it out and around a little bit more now.
Yeah, I think she's trying to do that, and I also think that the defensive pressure on her when people are picking her up earlier, up court and stuff, is making a big difference because she's constantly has somebody on her, at least half to 3/4 court, and that takes a lot of wear and tear constantly time day in and day out when somebody's doing that to you. So I think a little bit, it makes her a little tired, and I think, maybe that's hurt her shot a little bit, as we've gone, because she's played quite a few minutes every game. So she doesn't get a lot of rest, and hopefully down the road we'll be able to change that a little bit and give her a little more substitution, rest, and be able to mix it up a little bit more with some other people.
Yeah, again, she had played 38 minutes, did Wendy, and that's going to definitely take its toll. But now you're getting into that time of the year now where you can, I don't want to say burn out a player, but have them give it their all. They're going to get a nice rest, and that's got to be a positive, for you. At least, tonight, well, we're taping on Tuesday. This show shows Wednesday. We're going to talk about it in the present, though. It's Ohio Northern. Team is 3-4 on the season. I think that you probably wouldn't have as many reservations with playing somebody 35, 36 minutes if the situation really calls for it.
Right. If we have to play people, that amount of time, if we have to go 40 minutes with somebody, if they're doing the job and they're at the level that they need to be to play at that level, as far as giving 100%, or as much as they can that game, I have no reservations about playing a person. However, you need to be able to rest, use timeouts, and that's why I try to use my timeouts. I keep as many as I can to the second half so that we can use them as rest, and just play the timeout game with the other coach.
Now, you talk about the timeout game and the rest and everything, and just to point out that Lindy played 33 minutes, and in the first half sat out a good bit of the first half. I think because a heel problem probably was a lot of the reasoning behind that. But to get back to Jenny Newhart, the way that she's been picking her game up, 13 points and 7 rebounds, and it had to be very refreshing, the fact that the officiating at least let her go a little bit this time. But again, you got to attribute a lot of that to the play of Dottie coming in behind her.
Right. I think Jen has, she struggled a little bit, and when you get some calls that maybe you don't think are right, or they go against you and you get in foul trouble, then you have you tend to ease up a little bit defensively, and we just have to go at it. And if we end up in foul trouble with her, we can't worry about it, because I'd rather have her play all out defensively and get a little bit more out of her than always worrying about if I'm going to get that 4th or 5th foul. But the last game, she seemed to come out of that and do a real good job.
Again, IPFW over Franklin to improve to 5-2 on the season, 77-76. That was a recap on that. We're going to have the star of that game, Lindy Jones, who had 25 points. I think 8 rebounds, just a great game, best game of the season for Lindy. We're going to talk about that in a couple segments. Coming up next is Ohio Northern, playing Tuesday night. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about that right after this. Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong. Joining us here in just a few moments is going to be Lindy Jones of the IPFW women's basketball team. But first off, Coach, we're going to talk about the present, I guess, and that is Ohio Northern University coming to the Gates Sports Center. I guess I'm just going to ask you, what's the scouting report on Ohio Northern? I know that they're 3-4, and I know that they've got a pretty big wide body inside that you're concerned about, but beyond that, what's the scouting report say?
Well, I think they'll be a competitive team, that's for sure, and I'm hoping that we get a lot, people in this game and get some opportunities for playing experience for some of the younger kids. But they're a pretty well-balanced team. They do a variety of things. We went and scouted last week, and she played everybody. She rotated them in and out. They're pretty scrappy. They work hard, so they're not a team that you can overlook.
They're coming out of the Ohio Athletic Conference, which is traditionally a pretty good conference. I know their men's team won the Division III National Championship, I believe, a year ago. So at least they're coming in with some tradition of possibly being a tough team. Beyond that, what do the Lady Dons have to do to take it to the next level with these guys?
Well, first of all, I think the most important thing for us is to really improve on our defensive ability. Defensively, last game against Franklin, we really struggled. There were times where, we gave up baseline. We allowed the one-on-one stuff to really take advantage of our defense. Help side wasn't there. We're turning it back. Flash cutters are cutting through the middle, and we have no idea that they're coming. And we've been working on that, pretty much every day, trying to break things down and work on different aspects. But we just seem not to be able to put it all together yet. And so hopefully we can start to do that a little bit more in the next few games as far as the team defense and improve.
Is that where now we're going to, I guess, sidetrack here just a little bit from Ohio Northern, but is that what really concerns you probably about having the break, that after Wednesday you send your troops away until early next week? I mean, that's quite a break.
Right.
Does that concern you that of the aspects of basketball that would suffer the most when you come back and to go into the conference, that it would be defense?
Well, I think any time when you play a team sport like that, when you send people away for vacations, you always worry about that. But the positive thing that I think that we really can gain out of it is, one, that the kids get some time off and just to recuperate after exams and recuperate physically, just playing game after game and practicing hard. So I think there's some real pluses that I think can balance that out.
Okay, back to Ohio Northern. Offensively, it looks like you've been trying to go a lot of one-on-one lately, or at least the way that Lindy's game goes as far as your leading scorer. She does a lot of the one-on-one. Is that something that just kind of is a called play, or is that more of an instinctual play that you give the players that kind of freedom to do that if they see a lane open or whatnot?
Well, partly we're having a little difficulty running our offense totally and reversing the ball. We've been working on that, and that's just a breakdown that we're having, mainly because of our timing and the kinds of cuts that we're making. As far as the type of offense that we run, I mean, we run the flex, which is a pretty standard offense. I mean, we run what's called power, which is out of a 1-2-2 set, trying to, get the ball to the wings, get it into the post, take advantage of the free throw shot off a down screen. But both of the offenses, I want to be able to have our kids feel like they have the flexibility to do some individual things and be creative. However, I think the one part that is a breakdown for us is that we don't run it long enough. And we see some real quick things off of it, and eventually those things get cut off as we go through the game and progress. If we would start off running it a little bit more detailed and get through it and reverse the ball, I think those things would open up later in the game when we're looking for the real quick shot. So that's something that we need to work on. And I think it's just a little difference in philosophy. We want to play the up-tempo game and really push the ball, but yet when we get in a half-court game, we're having a little trouble slowing it down and being a little bit more methodical with it. So I think that's just going to take time for us to really get the confidence in that. And there's a lot of screens and things in it, and it just takes time to develop that.
Have you still got a plan that hasn't quite unfolded yet, as far as, you come in, you start late, the year is going on, you're probably just now getting a strong feel for this basketball team. Are there still some things that you want to try to introduce that maybe you just haven't quite got there yet?
Because of illness and some time off and some things like that, I've been really wanting to press, but the combinations of things that we've tried in practice just aren't working out the way I'd like them to, and I don't think that we're ready to press at this time. So yesterday we worked on a half-court press. Maybe we need to start out half court and expand it, or maybe we need to go to the quarter court working traps and then expand it, I think is the way that we're going to go. So I want to not get us in a situation where we're going to fail with something. I want to be ready to do it when we're ready. And I just haven't found the right combination of people to do that, and the right type of like press or trap that we want to use. So, as that develops a little bit more, we will be introducing some other things as we go through this season. But because of time and because of where we're at with what we're doing, I'd rather take a little bit more time and do our offense, set up our offense and really work our offense and have a better understanding of that than to cut it short and then we're not doing that very well and then we're not doing this very well over here. I'd rather spend the time to really have a good foundation of what we are doing. If we can't press till next year, then we don't press till next year. That doesn't bother me. But I want to have a good understanding of how we're supposed to play our team defense and how we're supposed to work our offense and our fast break.
Real quick before we head into the break, Pam, we started to touch on it and then we got away from it. Ohio Northern, how does IPFW stack up? Where are the matchups, the key matchups that you're going to be looking for against Ohio Northern?
Well, I think as far as their point guards are considered, as we look at those kids, they have a right-hander and they have a left-hander, and I'm going to try to get our kids to force them the opposite way. One, because they're not strong with the non-dominant hand. So both of those kids, that's how we're going to attack their points. As far as their small forward, Rockwell, she's their best outside shooter. She's their best three-point shooter. We're going to put a little bit more pressure on her outside. She doesn't seem to affect you as much with the drive as maybe their point guards do. So we want to stop the guards, the points from driving and force them their non-dominant side. Yet in some of the perimeter kids, we want to keep the pressure on them a little bit more. Now in the post with Toby, she's their go-to player. She's their best rebounder, their best offensive player inside in the post. And we just have to shut her off and keep her from believing that she can do it.
Well, that's the rundown on Ohio Northern. They come in 3-4. IPFW, of course, trying to go to 6-2 right now, 7-2 or 5-2. And the last game before the Great Lakes Valley Conference. It's a good tune-up, if you'd say, but still a lot at stake for IPFW. We're going to be right back with Lindy Jones and Coach Pam Bowden when we return right after that.
Talk about unusual. How often do you see transparent televisions?
Americans have more money to spend on leisure activities than ever before.
When possible, children should trick or treat during daylight hours and be accompanied by at least one adult.
A boat, archaeologists believe, is from the time Jesus and his disciples fished on the Galilee.
For best results, fertilize your lawn when it is actively growing.
Many people suffer from allergies. Few understand them.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and joining us today, our player profile is going to be with Lindy Jones along with Coach Pam Bowden. And it was a 77-76 win over Franklin College last Saturday, and Lindy had 25.7 rebounds. Pretty good outing, Lindy. It was, I think, you've been averaging up around the 18-point mark all season, but I think that it's probably a pretty satisfying game for you.
I think a lot of it has to do with Wendy Recker. She always gets the ball to the open person, and in the beginning I didn't seem to be the open person, but as everybody, we passed it around and other people got the shots off, then it began to fall for me. It was open more often.
Yeah, I've been waiting to ask you this because I remember during the game I thought, if there's anything, such thing as a zone, you were definitely in it. Did you feel, in the first half you had 20 points, I think you were 6 of 7 from the field, 2 of 2 from three-point, and you hit all your free throws. So everything was going right. I think, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you might have missed your first shot of the game. And then from there, you were perfect. 20 points in that first half. I don't know if that's your single best since you've been at IPFW. I'd say it's probably right around there, unless you count Kentucky State a couple years ago or something. But anyway, against a very good team, it was a great first half performance. But I wanted to ask you about that zone or whatever. Did you really feel like just whenever you touched the ball, you could probably score anytime you wanted?
I like to go against the zone. I mean, they back off a lot more, and you pass it around, there's always going to be an open person. So I think that they felt that I was going to shoot outside a lot, and so when I drove a few times, it broke it up a little bit, and I was able to get the outside shot. Now, Coach, and then you do go on, you win 77-76, but you come in here, it's your first year, and a lot of people say, hey, Lindy, she's a player. What are your impressions of Lindy here? You've known her for a couple months now, and I think she's proving things, averaging 18 points, 4 rebounds a game for you.
I think something that I really like, and it's not so much a statistic, is that she works hard and she wants to win. And I think that's a quality that sometimes you don't find in some people. And I think that's something that is very important to this program down the road. You've got to have the will to win, and you've got to be very competitive, and you have to have the desire to work hard all the time. And those are some things that Lindy does, and she does well.
Lindy, you're the kind of player that you're going to score a lot. But you're also leading the team in steals. You got a block to your credit, and you're also up there along with Wendy in minutes played this year. Was there anything that you did in particular in the off season to try to up your game? You didn't know who your coach was going to be.
No.
You didn't know, all those little things. What did you do as a player over the summer to prepare yourself for this year?
I went to Open Gym quite a bit, and I went to other schools. I went to Huntington and played with some of the girls there. So I think that has a lot to do with it, the off season, and lifting weights when you can, and besides, working.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people need to understand that, our athletes still, they hold jobs down. It's not just, things aren't just handed to you on a silver platter, and you certainly did that. But you mentioned weights, Lindy, and I think that might shock a lot of people when they look at women's athletics, that weights are becoming, and for coaches, it's an educational process yet. Learning what to do with weights when you consider women's athletics, but what do you all do as a team? And I know Pam has you in the weight room quite often, and it might be kind of a new concept, at least in the last few years it's been introduced.
The last couple of years we were in the weight room at least 3 times a week, and this year it's down to 2, but I think the way we do it, it's a lot, you keep going the whole time, you don't rest very often, so I think that has a lot to do with it, and for endurance and keeping you stronger. So,
So and from a coach's standpoint, what are the? I mean, it has been in the last few years that this has become the new thing, at least as far as conditioning for women's athletics. And I think it's something that they're saying, look, we're not that far behind. We can use this as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that it really does, and where it really helps, is as the season goes on. It keeps you away from some of the injuries, and it gives you a little bit more endurance to hold up to the physical play and things like that.
Now, Linda, you're a local athlete. We have a lot of those here at IPFW, but we were talking earlier. You are from Belmont High School in Decatur, and had a little different. You weren't recruited by a whole lot of schools because you did sign at the early signing period your senior year, so you could just kind of go on and score all the points and grab the rebounds you want. You knew that you were set. But why don't you give us some background on, you come from Decatur and how you got here to IPFW?
Well, I think I wanted to stay close by. It's important to have my family close for the support, and because there's always going to be problems, playing college basketball and trying to go to school. And I wanted them to be, come to my games. I didn't want to feel like, I was at some school by myself or something, and I get a lot of support from them. So
you still live with your family then while
No.
you're going to school here, or are you living?
I live at Canterbury.
At Canterbury with everybody. And how does that work out for you? I mean, I know
Great.
a lot of athletes. Well, quite honestly, a lot of local athletes really enjoy that. They can still be in their hometown and then still live in a nice apartment complex as well. Is that an advantage to you?
I think so. I think when you go to college, you should, kind of get away from your parents somewhat. But for the support, I like them close by, but, not too close.
Yeah, well, we were talking about support, and a lot of folks around here would know your brother, Kip Jones, played at Purdue for 4 years, and actually on some of their best teams in recent memory.
Right.
Does he have a lot to say about your basketball, or has this been something you've kind of come on your own?
He helps me out a lot mentally, because when there is problems on the team, he's always got, you know, something that happened at Purdue that he can help me out, and so he keeps me going a lot. So.
Okay, Coach, we're starting to wind the show down now. Again, you've got Ohio Northern tonight. Real quick recap on what you're looking for out of them.
Well, I expect them to maybe press a little bit, play some man defense, half court, try a little run and jump with their guards. They may also go into a 2-3 defense. I don't think they'll stay in that very long. I think that'll be to our advantage if they go to the zone, because we've had such good shooters from the outside. So I don't expect them to do too much of that, but I really do expect them to play a lot of half-court man and maybe even some press full court.
You're going to free Lindy up to try to shoot some more three-pointers. We were talking earlier, she's shooting 55% on the season, and you'd made the statement that you really want her to start shooting some more.
Yeah, there's a couple kids that I have given the green light, and I want them to shoot more, especially off the break, more from the three-point line. We need to do that a little bit more. It gives you just a little bit more boost, you know, than just getting two. And I think that, you know, Lindy's obviously shooting very, very well from there, and we need to get her shooting some more. And some of the other kids are right where we need them to be shooting.
So now you take a little break. Your first game back is Bellarmine. Of course, went to the NCAA championships last year. So I want to wish you good luck and continued success, especially going into the GLVC. And Lindy, you've been all-conference 2 years in a row. You look like you're on your way again. Congratulations to this point, but let's not rest yet, and let's see what more we can do this year. For Pam Bowden and Lindy Jones, I'm Matt DeLong. Thanks for joining us. Our next show is going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to take next week off because of the holidays. We're all going to be doing some traveling, so please have a Merry Christmas and a safe New Year, and we'll be back in the new year bringing you the Pam Bowden Show with everything you want to know about IPFW women's basketball. Thanks for joining us. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach Bowden's going to be joining us today talking about the past in IPFW basketball as far as what's happened since we were last on. It's been a while. And also what's coming up tomorrow night and Saturday night. Northern Kentucky tomorrow, Indianapolis on Saturday. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the show right after this.
The college basketball season is underway for 1994-95, and the Great Lakes Valley Conference has been rated by some as the toughest of the NCAA Division II conferences. Join Coach Andy Piazza and me, Matt DeLong, to get a closer look at the IPFW team in this year's competition.
Check it out!
The campus has it all.
Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now! Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong. And, Coach, it's been a while since we last saw you. Lady Dons stand right now at 7-4. We're going to get into you opening up the Great Lakes Valley Conference, or home action anyway, tomorrow night, which is Thursday, and Saturday. Tomorrow it's Northern Kentucky. Saturday it's a very tough, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that Indianapolis team at 9-2 right now. But first of all, why don't you recap for us? You gave your team a lot of time off for the holidays. I know they have struggled, lost 2 out of the last 3 since coming back, but still that's probably not the reason. But go into the holidays, where you saw the team, where you see them now, and just give us a little synopsis since it's been a while since we saw you.
Right. Well, we finished up with Ohio Northern, and we beat them by 3, which really isn't a very good indication of what the game was really like. We actually probably could have won by 20 if we wanted to, but I wanted to give our kids some playing time, some of the younger kids. So that was a good game for them, and that game when I started out was with the hopes that they would gain the experience, and I'm glad that we got a good enough lead that we could have that flexibility so our younger kids could get the experience in a tight game. So that was a real good opportunity there.
And I mean, just to emphasize that point, the score was 72-69. You defeated Ohio Northern, which was record-wise a losing team at that point, but you did have your quote-unquote star players right in the pines about the last 10 minutes when Ohio Northern made their run, but you stayed with those freshmen, and you didn't sub in to win by double digits or anything. You let them, in the heat of the moment, work it out.
Right. I really thought that they needed to gain that experience, and I think they did a very good job handling it. Mandisha Holmes is playing the point, and she needs to gain experience, and just becoming a leader, she needs that experience, and I think that she did a very good job there. Who else? We had Barb Derry, who had a chance to get a little bit more playing time than she usually does. Sometimes she's caught between, playing behind Lindy Jones. She doesn't get as much time as some other people, so that was a good opportunity for her.
So again, Ohio Northern 72-69. Then the Christmas break, and you gave the players quite a bit of time off.
Right. I think that they need to be with their families and stuff. That's as important as playing a game and that kind of stuff. And I think that sometimes people get it out of perspective, how important basketball is versus them having personal lives. And I think they've got to be happy. And if they're not happy and they don't feel like they've gotten the time off, then they're just not going to produce for you.
A lot of times it's a good break for the coaches as well.
Yeah.
I heard you did a little snowboarding up in Michigan.
Well, a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, no cast, so I did okay.
Considering it was 55 degrees on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it was a little heavy snow.
What can you say? So anyway, you get into the new year, you get the team back, you start working out, and your first game is against a defending the Final 8 basketball team from last year, and nationally ranked Bellarmine. And Bellarmine has had some personnel problems. Quite frankly, but now they're starting to come out of it playing a little bit better, and so opening up right away. You have Bellarmine. Yeah,
well, the thing that was really tough, I think, for Bellarmine, especially this year, was their loss of one of their best players due to the car accident that she had, and it's a great loss to them, and they have been struggling a little bit, but for us, I think that we just we fell behind at the beginning of the first half. We played catch-up the whole first half. We got within 2 or 3 points by halftime, and we never seemed to be able to get over the hump. And our biggest problem during that game was that we didn't play any defense, especially in the post, and it just really caused some real problems for us down the road. I mean, their post player inside just ate us up, and if we can't control the inside game with a high percentage shot, then we're just not going to be in the ball game.
94-72 was the score of that game.
Right.
And like you said, though, you thought that it should have been much closer than that. A 22-point loss,
you felt that, you told me at that point you thought Bellarmine was a better team, but probably not 22 points better than IPFW.
No, I don't think they're 22 points better than us. I think that we just didn't do our job defensively, and you know, we should be within 10 at least.
Lindy Jones led the way that game with 18 points. So 2 days later, this would have been New Year's Day, the 31st of December. You played a early game, which is very uncharacteristic. So now you got to wonder how the team's going to react. And this was against Kentucky State in Frankfort, Kentucky.
Right.
And you escaped, quite frankly, with a 3-point 89-86 win.
Right. Well, the thing that happened in that game is we were up by 20. We were doing some good things. The post players were, you know, just doing a heck of a job on the inside game. The press didn't bother us much in the first half. They weren't shooting threes. You know, we were doing a real good job. I did a lot of subbing in the second half. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's a 15-point lead. Now they're pressing. We're, you know, not handling the press, which we haven't had problems with all year. So it was a little bit out of character for us. They hit a couple threes. The crowd gets in it. And, you know, we just basically fall apart. And, you know, we've just got to be able to handle pressure a lot better than we did. And in Kentucky State, not to take anything away from them, they've greatly improved, and they deserve, you know, a lot of credit for playing a game like they did.
And again, it was a great comeback by them.
Yep.
But then again, you still win the game. Now you're 1-1 in GLVC play, and that brings us to Ashland, which was this past Saturday. You go in there. It's back and forth, just didn't quite have enough to get over the top. 76-75, Ashland takes you. Jenny Newhart, though, it was a positive. Right. She came out of another mini slump, and that led the team with 19 points, but nonetheless, 76-75 loss.
Right. Jenny has to develop a little bit more consistency from game to game, and, you know, she got back from Christmas. In the first 2 games, she didn't do a thing. And, in fact, she got in some bad foul trouble both games. And this last game, she did a lot better as far as her offense started coming along. The defense is still not there. And so it was a positive sight as far as Jenny's concerned. As far as us losing to Ashland, there's just no excuse for it. I'm not real pleased with where we're at defensively as a team. In fact, this week, that's our main emphasis is defense. We're going to play defense until we can keep teams down. You know, non-conference games, we were holding them low, you know, as far as scoring, and now we're up in the 80s. So we got to cut it down.
We're going to talk about a few more of those things, and also talk a little bit more about Ashland when we return right after this.
First-year IPFW women's basketball coach Pam Bowden is enjoying a fine preseason after coming to IPFW from the University of Alaska Anchorage. She has inherited a club which returns no seniors but still enjoys one of the top ratings in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. We want you to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 to find out more information about the IPFW women's basketball team all season long.
In our ever-expanding world, we need a reliable source, one that addresses important aspects of our daily lives and provides us with useful information. Health and Home Report is that source, with stories on how to get the most for your money, where to go for a great vacation, hot fashion tips, what's happening in the world of arts and entertainment, and the latest medical breakthroughs. Health and Home Report provides a world of information.
Good evening, welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. Again, I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach, we were talking about Ashland just a moment ago, 76-75 loss, and you were just going over, you know, that there was no excuse, and you know, if you continue on that.
Yeah, basically it's just a defensive breakdown. As far as offense, you know, I can't say anything bad about our offense except for our free throw shooting. I think offensively, you know, we're pushing the ball when we get good opportunities. We're doing well scoring off the break. We haven't developed into a three-point shooting team, and I think that's partly because we just don't have the great three-point shooters, and we have a couple kids that can shoot it. But I mean, as an overall team, we don't have 5 or 6 kids that can shoot the three, you know, real consistent. So until we get that through the recruiting process, we're still going to, you know, not shoot as many threes as some of the other teams in the league. But as far as the defensive end, I think that, you know, we're just not doing things. One person isn't doing it this time down the floor. You know, somebody else is making a mistake the next time down the floor. So it's just putting it all together and being able to do it as a team, you know, play in and play out. That's been our biggest problem.
You mentioned free throws, and it's been a disappointment. I know you've been working on that a lot. You were 15 of 27 against Ashland, and I don't have the box scores with me from the other games, but that's an area that the Lady Dons have consistently gone down in. You talked about they were in the 80 percentile area as a team, which was miraculous, and you were very happy with that, and you were bragging about that early in the season. Now, that's starting to slip a little bit.
Well, I think, you know, 80% during the, you know, to hold throughout the whole season, you know, is a pretty high percentage, and if I could end up 75, I'd be pretty pleased. But as far as where we're at, we're, you know, about 65%. I mean, you know, that's a pretty big dip, you know, 15%. And I think it's just a matter of mental concentration. I don't think it's anything that we're, you know, not doing right. I mean, I don't think you can have the capability of doing it one night, you know, at the beginning of the season and being that consistent with it at the beginning of the season, and all of a sudden you drop that low. Because of a physical ability, I think it's definitely a mental, you know, problem that we're having with it, whether we're not concentrating enough or we're, you know, just not taking the time to really focus on what we're doing. And, you know, it's going to get to a point where, you know, if you're not going to achieve X at practice, then X penalty is going to occur, because there's just no excuse for us not to be able to shoot in the 70s.
Okay, Coach. We're going to talk in just a moment about the conference. Maybe in our last segment, we're going to get into the conference, kind of update people on what's going on there, where the Lady Dons stand out 1 and 2. Certainly not out of the race yet, a little too early. But also want to talk about going into this weekend. We got a couple of our athletes that are going to hopefully reach some milestones.
Yeah, we have Lindy Jones that hopefully by the end of the weekend is going to reach her career 1,000 points. And we also have Jenny Newhart that has the opportunity to set a school record in block shots. So hopefully both those kids can obtain those goals this weekend and get that out of the way so we can go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, so, and not the kind of a deal that's really been a distraction for you, though.
No, I think both the kids will just go and play and do the things that they need to do. I don't think that's their main focus. I don't think those two kids have that, you know, that, oh, I got to get this, and you know, lose track of what we're trying to do as a team.
Yeah, just for the record, Lindy, I believe, has 975 points, so her 25th and 26th will get her to that mark. And actually, if you kind of chart where she's been, will probably rank as, or could very well be the second all-time scorer by the end of her career if she continues at this pace. So, quite a card to have, a trump card for you. And Jenny has 77 blocks in her career. The record is held by Pam Edwards, who was around last year at 80. And so her 80th and 81st, then she has to have a pretty good blocking game to reach it against Northern Kentucky, but probably should drop against Indianapolis at the pace that she's set. But I think the best thing that you as a coach need to look at is, you know, Jenny's going into a career category, not even halfway through her junior year. And Lindy is looking at this. That's got to be, kind of heartwarming to a coach, knowing she's got 2 players of that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, they're both really good players, and they're great people to be around. And it's nice to have kids in your program like that. And hopefully down the road, through the recruiting process, we can get a couple more kids to help add to that. But they have definitely helped in the foundation of where we're trying to go with this program over the next couple years.
Okay, Coach, I want to get into now what's going to be happening at the Gate Sports Center this weekend. Tomorrow night, Saturday night. Tomorrow night it's Northern Kentucky. They come in 7-4, won a couple conference games. A good, solid team. Defeated IPFW twice last year, and just all around they've lost a couple people, but they returned Angel Donnelly, first team all conference last year, 6'1" center in the middle. It'd be a nice matchup for Jenny tomorrow night.
Yeah, they're definitely a team to beat. That's for sure for us. Everybody's got us placed in the middle of the pack or down a little below that, and that's probably where we really truly are, being as young as we are. And Northern Kentucky is a great program. They've always had a strong program, and Nancy's done a great job with her kids there. And I look at if we can beat them, that's a good win for us, a very good win. So hopefully down the road we can, improve our game enough that we take away the inside game of theirs, and I think if we do that, then we should have a good chance for a W.
It's this kind of team that's going to run a lot with you, more disciplined team, like to slow it up, play the half-court game. But I guess the question is, what do the Lady Dons have to do to come out of this with a win?
Well, I really think that the real key for us is our defense, and improving that, and putting enough pressure on the guards out in the wings that they can't pass the ball in as easily or as quickly as we've had in the last couple games. And also our post players are just going to have to get a little bit more physical and move around the kids and get in the front position, so that the only place that the lob can come is from the top. And we sacrifice a little bit in the rebounding from that position. However, I think we gain a little bit more when you've got kids that can score 25, 35 points. We've got to be able to close that portion of the game off, and that's a real big key for us in the next couple games to see if we can do that.
I think another key that you and I have both overlooked is you might possibly be playing without your point guard coming up because of nature.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll try to get into that maybe a little bit as we head into the last segment. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about Indianapolis coming up on Saturday night, and then we're also going to try to catch up on the conference standings and just inform you of the team's health and go on from there. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Check it out!
The campus has it all.
Learn it, work it, play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now! Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. Again, I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and right before we went into the last break, we were pointing out that we do have an injury, quite sudden injury, actually, and it's something that needs to be dealt with and might lose a starter because of it.
Yeah, Wendy Recker in Monday's practice left early due to appendix problems, and found out later in the evening that they took her to the hospital, and that indeed it was her appendix, and we're still a little unknown what's up with it as far as are they going to do surgery, is it going to happen right away, and what's going on with that situation. So I think if she does go the surgery route, we may be able to play her maybe part of the conference play or all of it. We're not really sure yet.
And that's something that you just can't do anything about.
No.
And she was coming into her own as a point guard, and yet still may. That's how unsure we are at this point. But certainly the thoughts and prayers are with Wendy, because it's very scary.
Right. And it's something that's unexpected, and we just have to go with it. And somebody else is going to gain a lot of experience in that position if that's the case. And really, whatever we do this year is icing on the cake, which leads us into next year. And that's really what we're looking for, is to have a good foundation for next year and get some experience to do some good things next year.
So you take a 2-year starting point guard, it's only a sophomore, by the way, and what do you do? Who runs the team then?
Well, we're going to have to look to Mandisha Holmes, who's a freshman, a little bit. I've taken Barb Derry out of that position, mainly just to try to give her a little bit more confidence in the 2-guard position and help develop her a little bit more in that aspect. However, with everything coming up, we're looking at the possibility of going back with Barb in that position. We've also thought about possibly Lindy playing a little bit of that. Our offense isn't so geared that we have to have one person in charge of it necessarily, because X things run off of it, but it's an offense that continues, and we can still get Lindy in some good positions as far as scoring, but we need somebody to be able to bring the ball up with some leadership, and we may have to go with Lindy in that position.
Okay, well, certainly our thoughts are with the team.
Thanks.
And certainly with Wendy. Moving on now, Indianapolis on Saturday. Very good team. Might just be nationally ranked when the polls come out. We don't have those back yet, but not really sure. Nonetheless, they're 9-2.
Right.
Good basketball team.
Yeah, they're a real physical team. They try to push the ball up the court a lot, and in their half-court game, they're doing a lot of cutting and screening and stuff. So that is going to possibly cause us some problems if we're not doing the things defensively that we need to do. So one, we have to control the boards through defense and up-tempo game. We're also going to have to try to push the ball as fast as we can up the court, so that maybe we go to our advantage a little bit more. But if we have to play the half-court game, that's what we have to do. But we definitely have to pick up on the defense.
Indianapolis seems to be the kind of team that will then try to run with you.
Right, and they'll press us. So we've got to be able to handle the press right from the get-go and force them out of it, and cause some real transition problems for them. And if we do that, then they'll have to play our game a little bit more on that aspect.
Okay, Coach. Come to the point now where I really want to get your impressions on the conference. First-year coach in this conference, and people here in the Midwest brag up and down in parts of the South that the GLVC is just the strength, top to bottom in this conference. You just never know. You have to prepare for each game like it's your last. You really have to go out and try to go for it. So I want to get your impressions, and then if you would, touch on some of the top teams in the GLVC and maybe where they stand nationally.
Well, I think the conference is definitely a good conference. I mean, it has plenty of depth in it, and I think anybody that's in the middle of the pack can upset any of the big-time programs at any point, and I think that's something that those teams have to really be cautious of. It seems to be balanced. There's definitely a home court advantage, I think, as far as I can see with where we've been and that kind of stuff. So hopefully when we get back home, we'll have a little advantage at that, just being a little bit more comfortable in our gym. So we'll see how that goes. But starting with three road games is not the easiest. But we're back home this week, so we don't have any excuses, and we'll see what we can do there. But as far as some of the teams, I think Southern Indiana has just come out with the greatest start they ever could start with. They haven't lost a game, but they're 11-0, and Indianapolis is 9-2, and those teams are they're great programs, and they've done the things that they've needed to do over the last couple years to get themselves in that top position. So I'm looking forward to playing them.
Southern Indiana is a team also that had the Conference Player of the Year last year. They lost her. Everybody thought, well, this is going to be a down year. Pretty much have the same players back,
as far as the supporting cast from last year, and now they're doing this. This was a team that IPFW really handled twice last year.
Well, I think something that Southern Indiana has done is that they've developed a really strong foundation, and that's what we're hoping to build, because maybe have a player go out with a knee injury or something. In their case, they lost their best player, but they're able to still maintain the level of competitiveness that they've worked so hard for.
Also, always competitive in the GLBC is Ashland. Next year, going to be picking up Wisconsin Parkside.
They're a good team.
Always a good team. Quincy. So I mean, it's a tough conference, getting better every year.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we like to see. Of course, I say Ashland, and they'll be leaving the conference next year, going to the Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, or the GLIAC, which is up in Michigan. So. Coach, also these games this weekend on TV.
Right.
We're going to be bringing them to you here on Channel 6. That's going to be 6:05, I believe, will be the exact start time of your game here on Channel 6. And it's got to make you feel good as a coach. I mean, that's got to be a nice recruiting tool, having ball games on TV and done in a professional manner as Channel 6.
Well, having TV at any level with women's basketball is a great asset, and it's just a real plus for us to have it, and I appreciate the time and effort that everybody puts in.
So tomorrow night at 6:05, you can catch IPFW, the Lady Dons, going to battle against Northern Kentucky. Okay, we got that straight. So we want you to stay tuned and bring you all that action. Again, I'm your host, Matt DeLong, for Coach Pam Bowden. Thanks for joining us for the show this week. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong. Coach Bowden's going to join me here in just a few moments. We're going to talk about this past week in IPFW basketball. Two tough losses to Northern Kentucky and Indianapolis, but we're going to look ahead to this week and have some clips for you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's a cool place. Call now. Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and coming to you this day in stereo. So try to tune us into the stereo system, and you're going to enjoy it. But, Coach, first off, it was a disappointing week in one sense and a very gratifying week in another sense. 2 losses, but you were still able to find that optimism.
Yeah, I think it was a real tough week for us, and we're looking to improve this coming week and hopefully get a couple wins. You know, we've been short 2 post players the last 2 games, so that hasn't helped us. But I think we've really made some improvements in the defensive end of things, and the kids are playing a lot harder and just putting out a lot more for us, and we're just falling short a little bit.
It's been a 3-game losing streak to this point last week, 73-67 loss here at home to Northern Kentucky after you led a good portion of the game. And then another loss, 88-79, though that 9-point spread's very misleading with some late fouls and free throws. But again, another game that basically you led from the beginning and lost it in the end. How's the team holding up with losses like that, where you're 1-4 in the conference? You could very easily be 4-1 in the conference.
Well, I think the kids were a little down, especially after the loss to Indianapolis, because I think they really felt that they had it. At one point, we had a 10-point lead in the first half, and you know, we just kept making a mental mistake here, or we weren't in the right position the next time down the floor, and just allowed them to get back in the game because of some poor choices. But I think the kids really have to look at it that right now, if we were playing at the beginning of the season with the intensity that we're playing, you know, like I used the Grand Valley game as an example the other day. If we were to have played with the intensity against Grand Valley, we would not have lost 22 points to Grand Valley, you know. And we're trying to make a real good foundation defensively and try to build from that. And this week we're really going to work on breaking the press and trying to improve on that, so that, you know, when it does come to the last few minutes of the game, that we're actually able to, you know, hold our own and not blow you know, a lead or, you know, choke under pressure.
About this time last week, we were talking to some things were happening internally with the team that you thought that the gods must be aligned against you. And it ended up being a pretty good week because you were able to draw upon the youth of some players and the experience of others to try to make up for those absences. And we'll talk about 2 starters going down the first part of the week. You don't know if you'll have them back. You have to prepare that you won't, but Wendy Recker goes down with some abdominal problems.
Right.
You think you may lose her for the season. And anytime that somebody has stomach pains, of course, they thought it was appendicitis, found out that it wasn't, and that problem is slowly going to dissipate. But she still comes out then, plays 80 minutes for you, 40 minutes a game. That had to be just really a blessing for you.
Well, it really was. I was really surprised that we were able to use her this past week. And, you know, after the first game against Northern Kentucky, Wendy was just whipped. And, you know, for her to come back 2 days later and, you know, to play another 40 minutes, you know, it was really tough for her and for some of our other kids. And, you know, I'm just glad that she's okay and that she was able to come back. And you know, it's going to take a little time for her to regain some of her strength, but, you know, I think over the next week or 2 she'll be okay and back to full force.
Now, you know, we mentioned the 73-67 loss to Northern Kentucky, but, you know, in the beginning of the game, it was the Wendy Recker show. So she still came out. That had to make you feel good that she could come out and perform, and probably made her parents feel good as well to say, well, boy, she is feeling a lot better. But still, the caution that you must feel as a coach, having somebody play that has an injury or something wrong, it's got to just add more to the stress.
Yeah, well, the tough part is you don't know if she's going to play 5 minutes or be able to go the 40. And you know, with the situation, it was a close game throughout, and we were trying to go for the win, and, you know, trying to get some of the younger players in that position at this point really wasn't, you know, the way I could go at that point, and that's why she played the 40 minutes. I could have moved Lindy up there, but if I do that, it takes away from the offensive part of of Lindy's game, and so we stuck with Wendy up at the point. She did have a couple turnovers and things, but you have to deal with that, especially when she had been out for 2 or 3 days.
The other starter that I was alluding to was Jenny Newhart, who went down the first part of the week, took an inadvertent fingernail in the eye, to be completely blunt about it, and had a scratched cornea, as I understood it. So there, you didn't know how long she would be out either, and then she did miss the Northern Kentucky game. And what kind of an impact did that have on the Lady Dons, losing Jenny?
Well, it had a great impact because, Jenny's probably our top post player inside. She's really come along defensively this year, and the offensive part of her game is back, and, that just took away from our inside game so much that we really had to rely on our guards outside. And so that put a lot of pressure on us in that aspect. But, we really didn't know if we were going to have Jen on Saturday. We didn't know until late Friday night. She couldn't practice with us Friday. And, I'm going against a 10-2 team, and I've got to decide, do I start her or do I not? As a coach, I have to go with, the gut feeling that she's just got to be able to step in and do what she needs to do.
But Jen did return Saturday night, and we'll talk about that in just a few moments. But you are missing Newhart first half against Indianapolis. The result is you only have 3 players that score, and I guess it was kind of nice in a way to see players such as Jones and Recker step up and take charge where the ball just wasn't falling. At the beginning of the game, you fell behind a little bit. They took over, and in turn, you took a lead, and then eventually a halftime tie.
Right, and it's great to have those kind of players that can just step it up when we need it. But we're still at the point where we have a young bench, and people stepping into those starting roles and things like that, or have a little bit more pressure on them, and it's going to take some time for us to develop the maturity in the younger players.
As it came down against Northern Kentucky, though, I think it was your lack of depth and experience at key positions, and having Jenny Newhart out that was really the story of the game. You missed the inside, then Northern hit some key free throws down, and really earned the win, but still a very strong showing for your Lady Dons.
Yeah, we're really coming along, and I think, even with the losses, we're so close. And it's frustrating for me, and it's frustrating for the kids to lose as close as we are. But, if we look back at what we've been working on and things, we just haven't gotten to the full-force last-minute situations, mainly because we're not ready. We're not physically and mentally ready to do that. I mean, we're having enough trouble breaking the press, let alone worrying about the last 2 minutes. And this week we're really going to concentrate on breaking the press and seeing if we can make one more step closer to the good foundation.
Lindy Jones led IPFW with 29 points. Wendy Recker followed closely behind with 25 points. Lindy went over 1,000 points. We got some footage coming up for you in just a few moments. We're going to talk about also the University of Indianapolis game last Saturday night. Stay tuned. Second segment coming right up.
The college basketball season is underway for 1994-95, and the Great Lakes Valley Conference has been rated by some as the toughest of the NCAA Division II conferences. Join Coach Andy Piazza and me, Matt DeLong, to get a closer look at the IPFW team and this year's competition.
Hello there, welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach, we were just concluding our Northern Kentucky chat. Let's get into Indianapolis real quick before we get to some clips provided by Channel 6 here, as they do cover our games, our home conference games, at least live on Channel 6. 6 and 8 usually on Thursdays and Saturdays. We'll point that out. But anyway, it was an 88-79 loss. Again, you're still dealing with, even though Jenny Newhart's back, you're still dealing with her problems. It just didn't go away. Problem with her eye. Wendy Recker's still not 100%. You got some cards stacked against you. And as you look down at the final box, only 7 Lady Dons saw time. 2 of them, Lindy Jones and Wendy Recker, went 40 minutes each.
Yeah. Well, another thing that really hurt us is Dottie Porch has an illness right now, and she's out for at least a week, if not 2 weeks. So once again, we're down to 7 players that we usually go with at least, and we just don't have the depth, and we get a little tired towards the end and start making some mental mistakes against the press.
Yeah, and that was the story of the game right there. The press. The press killed us, especially in about the last 4 minutes of the game. From a fan's perspective, it looked like IPFW was pretty much in control until that time. And then I think that's where the fact that our girls had been going the whole game started to catch up with them a little bit. And all the credit in the world to Indianapolis, though. They put on a great press, and it worked for them.
Yeah, they're a very good team, and we can't take anything away from them. It's just that when we got to the press, two things happened. We were going to run what we call two up. We have two guards up, and a third guard taking the ball out of bounds, which we made the mistake. Tara Missoula ended up taking it out for some reason. The kids didn't communicate, and we had trouble correcting that during the game. So that was one of our problems. And when we did have Tara taking the ball out when we ran our 4 across, we didn't have our half-court people flashing up to the ball. So then, therefore, we passed to our guards, which isn't the first pass. It's supposed to be the second or third pass. So that caused us some more problems. So just because we didn't follow a couple things that we really needed to do as far as technique and how we were supposed to go about breaking it, we ended up causing ourselves a big headache.
Going to have some clips coming up for you. The Indianapolis game will be included in that, but we'll quickly run down the leaders for IPFW. Again, Lindy Jones, a great game, 29 points, and Lindy also has 7 assists, 8 rebounds, probably her best all-around game of the season, 4 of 8 from three-point, and 12 of 19 overall. Great week for Lindy. Again, she went over 1,000 points against Northern Kentucky. And then Jenny Newhard recovers very well. 19 points, 6 rebounds, 5 block shots, and her 4th block shot set the IPFW all-time block shot record, and she beat her good friend Pam Edwards, who graduated last year. The record was 80, and now Jenny stands at 82 blocks. So really a lot of congratulations to Jenny in 25 minutes, and again, it was great having her back for that game.
Sure was. We really missed her on Thursday, and it's great to have her back, and hopefully we can get Dottie back in that lineup so that we can add a little bit more depth in our rotation.
Leah Sheets finishes the game with 16 points off the bench. It was a great game for her. And halfway through that game, it got a little fast-paced, and she has an asthma attack. And, you got to be wondering, what is it with this week? But she did recover. She has a great game, and certainly wasn't a huge medical emergency, thank goodness. And then also Tara Mazzillo has been very consistent. Not a whole lot of playing time for Tara last year, and she has come ready to play this year. 13 points, a team-high 9 rebounds, and also a couple block shots. So get her from taking the ball out of bounds, and really, though, it was a fine all-around performance for Tara. We're going to get to some clips here in just a moment. Coach, why don't you set us up on what's going to happen, what we're going to see?
Well, the first clip here is against Northern Kentucky, and it's just showing, first of all, how we don't break the press and how we do break the press in the second portion of it. And it's just a matter of us trying to accomplish things systematically and not getting impatient like we did in that piece right there. And we luck out and draw the foul, which we get the ball out of bounds here. And the next time we take our time, we pass it around a little bit, hit the weak side player, dribble it up the court, and don't have any problem at all.
Now, this is against Northern Kentucky, but if the fans watch, this is pretty much what we needed to do about the last 4 minutes of the Indianapolis game.
Yeah, that's true. We skip it across here, and then we hit Teresa again, and we dribble it up court. Just enough. They only take 10 seconds off the clock, and we really don't need that much time offensively, but, at that point, we're just taking just enough time not to panic and not to throw it away and give them another easy shot at the basket.
Now, Northern Kentucky's really a very fine team.
They sure are.
Yeah, I mean, they came in at I think they left at 8-4. They were 7-4 coming in, but they've improved to 4-1 in the conference, and really I think a very tough out of conference schedule really has set them up very well for a possible conference championship this year.
Sure has. I think they may be the team to knock maybe a USI off, or maybe even Indianapolis. And that may just even out the conference just a little bit.
And really, IPFW at 1-4 right now, Coach. I can't believe that you're actually out of the title hunt. maybe your thoughts. It looks like you could just so easily be 4-1 at this point.
We could be, but it's just a matter of you know, how everybody else does down the road here, and not that we're out, and we're never out until, you know, gets later in the season. It's just a matter of how we come out in the next few games and if we can pull it together. And if we do that, we may still be in there.
Okay, Coach, we got another clip ready. Why don't you set us up?
I'm just trying to use this clip here as just overview of how Lindy Jones is such a good all-around player. The first part of this, you'll see that she hits the outside shot, and it just makes it really tough to defend her one-on-one. I mean, you sag off her, she hits the outside shot. You give her just a little bit of space here.
There's Lindy there, number 32 with the ball.
Hits the outside shot. It really makes it tough to defend that, and especially when she's such a threat with the drive. And in the next part, it'll be coming up here, we'll get a chance to see her off the drive. And, you know, just enough where the defensive player pulls up on her, just enough where she drives, and then she'll get the easy free throws off the foul. So it just shows that she's a good all-around player, and, you know, that's why she's scoring the points that she is. I don't think there are very many people in the conference that can guard her one-on-one.
No, really, she is one of the finer players in the conference, and that's very obvious. I think we're going to come back to that clip that you were just talking about, but you know, Lindy averaged 29 points in the 2 games last week, and I think the 1,000 points was probably very overshadowed to really her performance. Of course, she's going to have 1,000 points.
Yeah, she scored pretty quietly in both games, and that's what makes it so hard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Coach, we're going to come back. We're going to have even a few more clips. Check out this week coming up, St. Joseph's and Lewis. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Pam Bowden Show in stereo. I'm your host, Matt DeLong, and Coach, we're going to get right back to the clips here. And we're also going to finish up, we're going to try to finish up, time permitting, that is, talking about St. Joseph's and Lewis coming up this weekend. But if we don't have enough time, you know, stay tuned. We're going to have all the info for you here next Wednesday at 7:30. So make sure that you tune in. But anyway, Coach, why don't you set us up for, we got another clip of Northern Kentucky, then we're going to get into the University of Indianapolis game, which was Saturday night. But I think this is kind of, it's showing some good defense.
Yeah, what we want to do is show a little bit where our help side defense is coming from. And in this next play here, Wendy Recker ends up getting a steal just from the help side defense here. And Leah's doing a good job fronting the post, and Wendy comes up with a steal, and that's what our defense has to do. You know, give the impression that they're open in the low post, and we've got to come away with the ball.
Wendy Recker has a knack for finding that ball. She's leading the team in steals and ranks in the top 5 in the Great Lakes Valley Conference, averaging almost 3 a game. So nice movement by her. Then let's finish up with Northern Kentucky. Now you get into Indianapolis, and really it was almost 36 minutes of just solid, fundamental, right down to earth basketball. And then it kind of slid away. But you're going to take us through this game and maybe show us what we're talking about here, where everything was clicking heading up to there.
Yeah, in this next clip that we have coming up, Jenny Newhart does a good job flashing to the high post and hitting Tara low, and you know, it just is showing some of our unselfishness. And she hits her low on a nice little lob pass, and you know, easy as pie. You know, it's nice to see our kids get some easy scoring like that, and you know, just the unselfish play.
Jenny came in with 19 points and really hadn't practiced at all week because of that scratch on the eye. 9 of 14, but really she took over for a portion of the first half to where she looked like an All-America candidate. I mean, she was right there, right in the middle of everything, and it had to really make you feel good, especially during that first half, to see her come out ready to play.
Oh,
like
it sure did. You know, just I think knowing that she had a chance to get the block record, you know, I don't know if she thought she could do it or not in Saturday's game, but she really went after it, and she really, you know, hustled out there, and you know, there were some times where she got tired. We just tried to sub her when that happened, and you know, she just gave it her all, and she just did a, you know, a mighty fine job.
Well, Jenny had 7 blocks all season, Coach. She has 5 against Indianapolis. That kind of shows you she did come ready to play, and she was ready to get that record. So 12 blocks on the season now, again, 5 of them. And I think 3 of them were in 2 possessions, right back to back. I mean, she just wanted everything there was out of there.
Yep.
And again, that respect coming back to Jenny. I think we got another clip ready, Coach. Why don't you set us up?
Well, this here is Leah. She's going to make a good bounce pass into Tara down low. Or actually, it's Jen. And Jen makes the score. We make it look nice and easy. One of the rules that we have is we don't want the lob pass from the wing from our players, mainly because teams have a tendency to throw it out of bounds. So we want our kids to use a bounce pass into the post, and Leah did a very good job with the bounce pass into Jen, and Jen set her player up very nice and had an easy shot. Now,
Leah is the kind of player that in high school, it's Leah Sheets, she's from Columbia City. In high school, she was pretty much a post player. You know, the smaller players bring the ball up the court, and the big players, and Leah 5'10", 5'11", you know, they kind of go down. But you know, she's going outside for you.
Right.
She's playing great defense, and I think she's just now starting to find her potential. From my standpoint, finding her potential as to she can play all around all the time.
Right, and I think one thing, let's use Thursday's game. She had 4 or 5 travels in that game, and she came to the next game, and she didn't have 1 travel the whole game. Not even that was uncalled. And for Leah to just focus mentally that way and make it the adjustment from one game to another, we're ready to get, you know, she did a great job.
Okay, why don't you set us up? We got another one up here, Coach.
This next one, Wendy Recker's up top, and she's going to hit Jen down low with a little flash to the middle, and it's a nice assist, easy 2. Jen did a good job just beating her player 1 step and with the easy score.
Wendy Recker's also, she's leading the conference in conference games and overall games for assists. And I think she's averaging in double figures at home this year. Just a great all-around play. You can touch on that and got another clip ready.
Yeah, she's really improved. You know, she's cut the turnovers down, and she's really done some great things offensively with the assists, and I'm very pleased with where we're at with her. The next clip that we have, we've got Tara fronting in the low post. We luck out. Jen gets a steal from help side defensively. Doing a good job with our help side defense. We kick it up. Lindy brings the ball up the court, and Tara runs the floor real well, and we hit her on the fast break. And I couldn't ask anything better out of our kids than to run the break that way. And we're really hoping that between the offensive boards and the steals defensively that we can improve our fast break game so that we can get the easy scores like that and have the high percentage shot.
Just a little more than a minute left, Coach, but stand at 1-4 in the conference right now. But again, things are looking up. It's been 3 tough losses in a row, really heartbreakers to where it could have gone either way. So now you have another opportunity to jump right back into conference play with both feet. St. Joseph's and Lewis. Real quick, got about 30 seconds left. Quickly, what are you looking for out of this weekend?
Well, St. Joe's is going to be a tough game. 1, because they're a very good team, and 2, they're at home. But I think our kids really need to be challenged this week to step up the play and take it away from them on the road. And I think if we can do that, then we're going to start feeling a little bit better about ourselves defensively and offensively, and take the challenge and get right back in there and have a chance to improve every game and hopefully, you know, still be in that conference run.
Okay, Coach. Good luck this week. We'll see you back here next Wednesday at 7:30. Again, good luck. Let's bring home some wins this weekend. For Coach Pam Bowden, I'm your host, Matt DeLong. We'll be coming back to you 1 week from today. Stay tuned. We're going to have all the great IPFW ladies basketball action for you right here on Channel 6. The last game even in the area until you return home on December 17th, a doubleheader with the women. They play Franklin at 6. You've got Quincy, traditionally a very, very tough basketball team.
Wish we had Franklin too.
Yeah, you wish you had Franklin too. But December 17th, that's following final exams. We'll talk a lot next week about the final exams, how that affects your basketball team. We're going to be searching for a few things to talk about. We'll also recap Tri-State, hopefully have some highlights of Tri-State. We want to thank you for joining us this week. This has been the Andy Piazza Show. Again, IPFW at Tri-State. This will be Tuesday. And then returning home December 17th against Quincy University here at the Gate Sports Center at 8 o'clock. For Coach Andy Piazza, I'm Matt DeLong. Thanks for joining us.